Welcome again, Sean. We're back at it again, and this is our second show, man. We're about to introduce our second guest. What are we gonna call this? A season, or just our second guest? And by the way, that's Paul Headley.
Well, I mean, what can I say? We had a great first show, Rocco Boyne. People are still talking about it. I'm still getting calls up to this afternoon before I came on there. Um, I must mention, after the show on Thursday, Rocco got hurt on Sunday, and I thought he was done for a while, but he rode on Wednesday and he won a race. So it just shows you how resilient jockeys are. They go through a lot, but they always have to battle themselves back to the work table, man.
Hey, that was quite something because when you messaged me, you told me that Rocco got hurt, and I checked the replays, and I didn't see anything happen. But then we found out that he brushed against the gates, and I was happy about that, and he didn't actually fall or something like that, right?
You got to remember something, all right? If you stump your toe, you could guarantee somebody's going to stand on it, okay? And if you remember correctly, Rocco told us, his leg was hurting for a bit. You know what I mean? He's having trouble with his leg, and that was the same leg. He hit his leg at the gate, and
Oh,
voila, that's the business, man.
but you know what? I'm happy that he got back on that horse, and he came back and he won a race. Maybe he won a couple races, but
Yeah,
I'm just glad he was able to get back racing and get it going.
that's right.
Because some people sometimes is very unfortunate and not able to get back on so quickly. You know how the business go, right, Sean?
I've been in that position many times. That's why I'm in Barbados. The injuries got to me by the time I was in my 40s, and I'm here now because of neck injuries, surgery, plates in neck, and that's life, man. You just move on.
All right, so I guess tonight's show, it's not really about us. It's about
Yeah.
someone much more interesting than me. I know Sean is more interesting than me, but
He
this
more
guy is
than
even
me.
more interesting. So from day one, Sean is like, look, I got a man that we got to get on the show, and we just got to. He has a very interesting uh, um, um,
His
journey.
journey, his
That's
journey,
right.
man.
That's
His
right.
journey has been. I mean, when I first met Steve in '89, I remember he was introduced to me by my friend Chris Martin, and he used to be the clocker at the training track. And he was this big, very, but he was a gentle giant, though. You know what I mean? When you see a guy so big and strong, you think that with Jamaican and that kind
Oh,
of stuff.
come on, Sean. I mean, like, you're a jockey. Everybody's big for you, right?
Listen, don't go there because I've been laughed at all my life because my father was the best basketball in the world, and I remember going to India and people were looking at me and said, "You can't be West Hall's son," you know what I mean? And so I know those jokes very well.
So, anyways, I think we should get our guest in tonight. He's the senior vice president of Strana Group. But I'm going to let him introduce himself. He goes by the name of Steve Lym. And I'm going to add him in now. And welcome to the show, Steve. It's very nice to meet you.
I don't, Steve.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you again.
Great.
Um, I'm having a little bit of problems with the internet, so forgive me if I jump in or a little late coming in.
We can hear you,
Oh, that's
man. Don't
fine.
worry.
We can hear you loud and clear. We can see you.
All right, great.
So actually, I'm gonna let Sean go ahead and punch away at the first few questions.
Yes. Let's get down to business, Steve. No,
Okay.
don't get frightened. I was speaking to my father, and he mentioned your dad. Your dad was a great horseman because most of these cricketers know all the good trainers and thing from Jamaica and Trinidad and all those places. I mean, even with Laurie Silver, first my father asked me if he still wears that cowboy hat and that kind of stuff. So, there's that bonding that these guys know. And he told me, Sean, his father was such a good horseman. It doesn't surprise me that he's such a force in the horse racing industry. and you have obviously, I mean, you have done that. I met you in '89. You were just a clocker. I used to see you, hanging out the clockers booth, we shouting and work and that kind of stuff. And you've grown and grown and grown. I mean, every few years I saw you, you seem to have made a few more strides. Tell me, how did you do that, Steve? How was this journey gone for you?
I haven't really figured that out yet. You know what? It's funny. Like you said, my father was a trainer in Jamaica,
Yes.
and when I was young, the only thing I wanted to do was to be interviewed by Jim McKay for the Derby.
Wow.
Seriously, I wanted to be a trainer. That was it. He wanted me to be a vet, and I probably would have became a vet if he didn't pass away. But he passed away when I was 18.
Right.
But yeah, he was a good horseman, and I wanted nothing more than to be a vet. Every morning before school, I was here at the racetrack. After school, feeding the horses. It at night, watering them off. It was all about horses. And then he passed away, and I got my assistant trainer's license when I was 16.
Okay.
Wow.
That's
Really
that's
young. And then when he passed away, I was trying to get my trainer's license. I didn't want to give it to me because back then there was a rule that you had to be a private trainer for the first year, and if you were young, and blah blah blah. So he passed away, and I had a bunch of interviews with the stewards.
Yes.
They interviewed all my owners, all the people that worked for us, because I was running the stable.
Still.
When he was sick, he died of cancer. So I mean, he was in the hospital for a long time.
Yes.
And I was running everything. I'm still going to high school.
Yes. Wow. That's wow.
Yeah.
That's a double wow.
Yeah. And then he passed away.
Yeah.
The stewards interviewed everyone and said, okay, we're going to give you the license. And this was in June of '86. And I became, I think, the youngest trainer in North America. I know for sure youngest trainer in Canada.
Wow.
I had about 8 horses. I did okay for that year. I think I won 6 races. But, as a young trainer, I mean, anytime I put a horse in a claiming race, he was claimed.
Whoa.
Right? So at the end of the year, I had a couple left. And my mother said to me, there's no way you're staying at the racetrack if you don't finish school. So I quit. And I went to school, finished school, and I was going to Guelph. I was going to go to Guelph.
Right.
To be a vet, which I didn't really want to do.
Okay.
So I didn't last very long there. And I asked, while I was going to school, I wanted to do something in the morning. So Tom Cosgrove, I'm sure you know him.
Yeah, no, Tom, yeah.
Yeah, he hired me to be a Gap part-time person while I went to school. And I did that in '87. Long story short, I became head clocker in, I don't know, maybe 90, 89, 90.
Yeah, around that time, I was there.
And then I did Equibase. I did Equibase and clocking till 2003. And then in 2002, one of the people in my life that's gotten me to where I am is John Whitson.
Yes, he's a good guy also, man.
Yeah. He sort of took me under his wing, and I mean, he was really good to me, and saw potential in me that I didn't even see at the time. I shouldn't say that. I mean, I was ambitious. I wanted,
yes.
I wanted to do what I was doing at Woodbine, and hopefully one day get back to training.
Okay.
But it was difficult to train back then. It was it was tough for a guy like me. I was young. I wasn't from Europe.
That's a good choice of word, man. I'm glad you put it that way, Steve.
That being said,
what a diplomat! What a diplomat! Well done.
Yeah. So I mean, it was tough, right? There was Laurie Silvera at the time. My father. Boy, I think that was about it. No, that's not true. Joe Johnson, there was some island guys there. There wasn't too many Bayesian guys there yet.
Yeah, they had what's it,
Ricky was there, I think.
Ricky came in '87.
Yeah.
But I know they had an old Barbadian guy called Braffett. He was down Fort Erie.
Joe.
And
Yeah.
Joe Braffett, and then also get a brain freeze. He's also from Barbados too. Nice guy, man. Oh dear, I can't believe I forget his name, man. He's a good friend of mine too. But they had another Barbadian trainer that came in the '70s that before all of us, but we didn't know he was Barbadian until we got here.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking 4 out of 300 trainers, right?
Yes, correct.
And it was just difficult. I was young and like I said, I wasn't from Europe. But the guys that were with me, they were pretty good. They were with my father for a long time, but I had to finish school for my mother. So I quit and did the clocking.
Yes.
And then just dropped out of school and stayed clocking. I remember I was making $200 a week, saying, "How the heck am I? I can't even get a basement apartment with this kind of money." And I stuck with it, and like I said, in a couple of years, I was head clocker, and I was making really good money by the time I was about 22. And it's funny. I've never really asked for a promotion or a job. I mean, except for getting a clocker's job.
Well,
everything sort of just fell into place for me. But I mean, for the first 10 years of when I was working at Woodbine after I became head clocker, I mean, once the season started, I never took a day off.
Yes.
It was 7 days a week. I was working in the afternoon during the races, working in the morning. I worked hard.
What I would like to know is how you got into administration of the office, because that was a big move. We didn't expect that then.
No, that was a funny story.
Tell me about it. I want to hear about this.
So, in 2002, I was doing well, and I wasn't sure what was going on. So, there was a guy named Eddie Hall who was in charge of stewards.
Yeah, I know Eddie.
And he said to me, "Hey, we're looking for stewards, and with your background and your knowledge, we think you'd do well and move up fairly quickly."
Yes.
So I said, that sounds good. So I was thinking about it. It would have been a pay cut for me, but in the long run, working for the government versus working for Woodbine at that time, I thought was maybe the right thing to do.
Right.
As it turned out, it wasn't, but I thought it was something I could do. So because John Whitson was so good to me, I went to him and said, "Hey, listen, John, I have an opportunity. I think I'm going to be a steward, but I don't want you to find out through anybody else." And he told me, "Just hang on. I'm going to retire. I want to make you the racing secretary." I'm going, wow, racing secretary. I hadn't even worked in the race office. I mean, I was in the race office all the time doing my clocking work and working closely with them and all that, but I never actually did the job of racing secretary.
Right.
So he said, if you trust me and you believe in me, just hang on and we'll do something before I retire. So this was in the spring, like March, April of 2002. And at the time, Chris Evans was the racing secretary. It wasn't that I didn't get along with Chris, but Chris wasn't my guy. I just, I didn't. He wasn't my guy.
I mean, I'm surprised that I'm surprised you come out and say that so openly. I mean,
I didn't have any issues with him.
He just wasn't your guy. That's all.
I don't mean it that way. I mean in the sense that I'm not so sure he wanted me in that position because John Whitson was offering me the position. He wouldn't have a chance to hire his own guy because the way the chain was going to move up was John was going to leave, Chris was going to move up, and I was going to go into that position.
Right.
So this was in early spring now. The timeline is very important here.
Yes.
So I didn't tell anyone, and I continued doing what I was doing, and it just kept dragging on, right? So around June, it came out that John was going to retire and Chris was going to move up, and they were going to look for a new racing secretary.
Right.
And everyone kept saying, "Are you going to be applying for that job?" I said, "No, I couldn't do that job. I don't want that job." And they just kept putting it off. And then I went to John in the summer and said, "Hey, is this thing still on? Are we still going to make this change?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, it just has to go to the board and you know." So as soon as he said that, I'm like, "Oh, this is dead now. I'm not going to be a steward. I'm gonna be here." Not that I mind doing because I was, like I said, I was doing well and I liked it. So I said, "Okay, I guess that's done." And then they opened it up. So he went to the board. It got out now that they were looking for racing secretaries.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're getting all these applications in, and Chris is calling people from out west and whatever. So I go, "Well, that's done." And then he interviewed me.
Uh-huh.
And at this point, I figure I'm finished. So I'm going to give an interview expecting not to get a job. So he's asking me, "So what do you think?" I said, "Well, I don't want to give up what I have now to be an assistant racing secretary for somebody else that's my age, and I'm going to be there for 40 years or 30 years. That's not what I want to do.
Yes.
I'll be your assistant racing secretary for a year or two before you move up, but that's about it. Otherwise, I'm going to stay where I am."
Right.
So he said, "Okay." And I never really heard any more after that. And he interviewed a few people from out west and some local guys and some trainers. And then I remember it to this day. Bill Theranos. You remember Bill?
Well, Bill, of course. Who doesn't?
So here's the deal. So, and this is how things work. And I'm a pretty quiet. I don't flashy. I'm not. Bill comes to me in November and says, "Hey, I just got a Cadillac Escalade. This is 2000. I got a Cadillac Escalade because I was looking for a car that was found stolen in a shipping container. You can have it really cheap." So I go, "Okay, sure, let's go look at it." I looked at it. The thing was brand new, and I got it for, man, it was half the price of what it was. So I bought it. And then, so this would have been now November, December. And I had it at home. I hadn't showed anybody. I get a phone call from Chris Evans saying, "Hey, they want the new senior vice president of racing wants to interview you for the racing secretary's job." I said, thought I was done. So
I thought you had it by now.
So now it's the middle of winter. I'm getting ready to go to Jamaica with my wife and my kids. It's December. He goes, "Can you come in today? Put a suit on and we'll go interview." I go, "Okay." Yeah. So like this would have been mid-afternoon. I put a suit on. I go to the senior vice president's office and I interview with him for about 3 hours. About, I don't know, it's about 7 o'clock now. I go home and I'm with my wife, Jennifer, and I said, "Yeah, the interview seemed to have gone well. I mean, I think I did okay." Got a phone call while I'm at home and said, "Hey, you're the new racing secretary, blah, blah, blah." And the only thing I could think of was, look at this. I just got a racing secretary's job. It's great. And I'm going to show up next spring in a Cadillac Escalade. You know what? You're going to look at this guy.
Rich already.
Yeah. So that's how I got that job. And then Chris got into some trouble. I'll tell you another funny story. So while I was doing that job, Chris and John Whitson came and said, "Okay, you're gonna be named the racing secretary, but you're gonna work for Chris for about a year, get to know what you're doing, and blah blah blah." So me being a young kid, I think I was, like I said, 22 at the time or whatever it was, 23, something like that. No, sorry, 2000. I would have been early 30s, 31.
30s, yeah, you were, right? Yeah.
Well, about after a couple of months or a month, I go, "I can do this job. I don't want him to be writing the condition book and blah, blah, blah." So I went over his head to John Witz and said, "John, I want to write a condition book." He said, "Are you ready?" I said, "Yes, I am." So he had a meeting with Chris. "You're going to take over the condition book." Man, I took that condition book the first night, went home and looked and said, "What the hell did I get myself into?" I mean, I couldn't make heads or tails of it really. I knew the gist of it, but it's a jigsaw puzzle sort of the condition book, right? And one race has to fit here, and they all have to go into order. Man, it was rough. I got through. I remember the first condition book I wrote. It was beginning of April, and one day I had 7 two-turn races and 3 sprints in the beginning of April. Going, I didn't notice it till the book came out. I'm going, how the hell am I going to fill that day? I mean, little things like that. And of course, Chris wasn't too enthusiastic about helping me because I went above him.
Yes.
To get the condition book. But I think it got better from there.
No, because that's what I want to talk to you about now. Like, how difficult is it to write races and that kind of stuff? Because I'm right now here in Barbados, we seem to. I always thought it's supposed to be something neutral. You know what I mean? That nobody's involved in training, owning, whatever. You got to be a neutral person to do a job like that. I don't know if you agree with me.
Writing a condition book's a funny thing, right? Like I said, I got some advice once from David Wilmot, and he was the chairman of the board, and he kind of said it. He made some points that still sit with me today. There's certain races that should be in every condition book.
Right.
If it's a top racetrack, you need every condition book. You need a maiden special weight and an A other than. Right? Those have to be there no matter what.
Right.
Right? Because those are your good horses. They're always going somewhere. So you need to start them off. They need 1 or 2 wins before they start going into tough allowance races or stake races. And then you fill in the book otherwise. You always have to have cheap races every couple weeks, every 12 to 21 days.
Right.
And then the ones that don't fill so well, you need them every 3 to 4 weeks.
Right.
And then your specialty races, maybe, like a horse for social charter, right? If he's not running in a stake race, you need some sort of open allowance race, or we call it money line race.
Correct.
Well, every horse has to be going somewhere. The old open claimers, they're not good. They're just looking for that $10,000 claiming race every 3-4 weeks, and it has to be there, right? Not that they're going to hit every race every 3 weeks, but they know if they run in this one, 6 weeks from now there's going to be another one, or a month from now there's going to be another one.
Right.
So you need it to be continually having horses go somewhere. The young ones, you want them to progress, get to a stakes caliber, and if not, they drop. Right? So you have to have. So anytime you're writing a condition book, you always have to be thinking, okay, if this race doesn't fill, is there another spot they can go in? If they win this race, is there another spot further on where they can go? So those are all things. As far as being neutral.
But the reason why I asked you that, because you just come from being a clocker. You don't really have much experience doing this. And you somehow, you learned it quite easily.
So I think if you're a trainer, or you're an involved owner, you sort of know the flow of the condition book, right?
Of course,
when you pick up the condition book, there should be a race here. There should be a race there. You don't watch the whole thing, but you know that, hey, there should be a race every 3-4 weeks.
Yes.
So me being a trainer back then, I sort of knew the flow of the book. But putting it together is a whole different story, right? How many allowance races do you have a day? How many long races? How many short races? But the technical part's the easy part of that job. The hard part is all the other stuff that goes along with it, all the political things, all the front side office people want a piece of it, right? It's racing secretary is a job where trainers are always on you because that's how they make money.
Yes, you come and beg for a race for the horse and that kind of stuff. We do that,
right? And then on top of that, decisions that you make as a racing secretary, how many stalls they get, how many, all that stuff, it affects how much money they make. And if you're a little guy, you feel like nobody gives a crap and nobody wants to help you, and it's always a big guy. And if you're a big guy, a really big guy, you better help me because I bring people in and money into this company.
Yes, yes.
So there's always that dynamic going on, and then you have the
It's
front
a balance.
side.
It's a balance you always have to be
Right.
careful of.
Right. So you have to, as a racing secretary, you're making money for the company, right? So you need to produce cars with full fields, competitive, so they bet, and that brings money into the company. But you got to give. For me, it was always a balancing act where I got to make sure that the horsemen are making money. Because if the horsemen don't make money, the industry is going to die. They're the ones giving you the product.
Yes.
I think lots of old time guys didn't see it that way, and I tried to make sure that I saw that, and especially small guys, because I was a small time trainer. My father was I want to make sure that they have opportunities, and those guys feel like someone's listening. Sometimes guys are small for a reason, right? They're not very professional. They don't have enough money to do what they're doing. So there's all sorts of reasons. But in general, it's a balancing act. I don't know if you have to be neutral because you need input from horsemen.
Yes.
Right. But input from horsemen is the worst thing. Because if you have three people, hey, I need a race here, I need a race there, and I need a race there. Well, you can't have it perfect all the time.
No,
right?
no.
So, and then it was on top of that. It was, you promised me a race. Oh man, I forgot. What the? It's just there's lots of things.
You can tell that this is like school for me. So I'm just listening keenly, listening, taking in everything that Steve is saying. And by the way, Ted Stenholder is shouting out Steve, saying hello to you.
Ted Holder's
And I
my
was
man.
there. You go. So shouts out to Teston. So I'm listening to your story, and I'm thinking, a 16-year-old trainer, you're moving up the ranks and so forth. And I guess you're training at Woodbine. And now where are you right now? Santa Anita, right?
I left Santa Anita last year. I was at Santa Anita for 2 years.
Okay.
How that came about was, listen, at the end of the day, I'm a Canadian. I love Woodbine, and Woodbine's my home. I was there for 31 years. But near the end, for my tenure there, I wasn't so thrilled with what was going on. We had new management, and I was pretty secure. I was good at what I did. I cared about what I did. I tried to improve. I was on a lot of international committees and Breeders' Cup committees, and so I was always trying to get better, and I knew what I was doing, and I thought I was good for a horse race. Some trainers might tell you otherwise, but I was for Canadian racing. I thought it was pretty good. I wanted nothing more to be a vet. I thought I was good for a horse race. So near the end of when I left 2018, things were changing, and I wasn't too happy. And they brought a new guy in. I was promised some things actually, and they brought a new guy in, and he had no horse racing experience. He didn't even see a horse race, I don't think. He was.
It must be hard for you to witness, actually.
Huh?
That must have been hard for you to witness.
That was the second time I did it. I did it once before for another guy that came in. I didn't mind doing it, but this one just like, okay. This guy, he never saw a horse race. Turns out I really like the guy. He's really smart. He has skills I could never imagine myself doing. He was a smart guy. He was an accountant, and he had he had, I think, about 20 degrees behind his name. And he was young. But never saw a horse race. And I take my job as being the guardianship of horse racing, especially in Canada when it's small and it's shrinking, right? You want to make sure that.
Is it really shrinking?
I don't know about anymore now, but take a look at where horse racing was in the 80s and 90s and where it is now, right? There's less owners. There's way more money. I don't know why more people aren't in it, but there's less owners. Woodbine kind of is the only real track left. Fort Erie is a shell of what it used to be. I don't know, Shauna, back in the 80s, Fort Erie wasn't the greatest racetrack, but it was nice. It
had a lot. It had a lot of horsemen on there. Now it's just, as you said, it's just a shell.
And I think that, for as much money as Woodbine horse racing Ontario generates and gives out to the horse people, there's a lot of people struggling in horse racing. And the big guys, because there's so much money, the big guys are really big, right? You can afford to go out and buy a dominating horse at a sale and make that money back at Woodbine, where you couldn't really do that back in the 90s. You had to go outside of Woodbine to do it. Now you can stay and run your horse at Woodbine forever and make $1 million, $2 million. So anyhow, they brought this guy in, and I quietly just put the word out that, hey, to American guys, if there's anything, let me know. And I got a phone call from PJ Campbell at the Breeders' Cup in 2018 or 2017. I can't, one of those. The one in Kentucky. The last one in Kentucky for me. And he said, and I really wanted to go to Florida. I mean, California wasn't even on the radar for me. And he said, we're going to make some changes at Santa Anita. Do you think you want that job? And I said, I didn't even think about it. I'm not really looking to leave Woodbine, but if something came up, I would definitely make a move. So I said, let me talk to my wife and my family and get back to you. And I was taking a little while, and he called me back and said, hey, we want to make that change. And I just said, I'm going to do it. And I ended up being the vice president racing secretary at Santa Anita in 2018, I think. Great place. Lots of history. The horses are unbelievable at Santa Anita. I mean,
I had a ton of questions for you about California and Santa Anita, but I want you to continue. But when you pause, I'll jump in and ask you a couple questions about Santa Anita and that great racetrack.
Yeah, so I mean, I ended up going there in January, Santa Anita.
Good time. Get over the cold, eh?
Yeah, and I mean, it was nice. It's far. It's not too many Caribbean people in California. No. So, I mean, I'm Jamaican. I mean, trying to get a beef patty was like,
oh, no. You got to drive to Florida.
It was tough. You had to drive. And I remember going, like, looking up on Google and Jamaican restaurants, and it's like I come back and tell the guys, yeah, I went to so and so and get food. Go, what? Did you drive down there by yourself? What are you? So I mean, it was a different world. It's beautiful out there, though. The people are very friendly. Like I said, the horse. I remember the first day I was sitting there. I was watching the horses school in the morning, and I mean, these horses just look amazing, amazing. Every horse that ran in a 2-year-old or 3-year-old race, $2 million sale horse, $1 million sale horse. It's field size were small, and I ran into it was a bad time out there when I was there. Lots of stuff were happening.
Right.
Horses
was that kind of breakdowns and stuff like that? Breaking down.
Yeah, it was. It was crazy. But I mean, through it all, the people were very nice. The trainers, they were tough, but they were all respectful. California's a nice place. My wife didn't come out with me, so I found it very hard to keep in touch. Right at 6 o'clock when she was done work, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon for me. So I didn't really have time to talk, and she wanted to talk. Yeah. When I was done at 6 or 7, it was 9 or 10. She was getting ready to go to bed. So it was difficult, and then when she flew out to see me, it was a 6-hour flight. Yeah. Plus 3 hours, and it's just it was,
the time is different, right? Like the time, like that's in the West Coast, and over here is on the East Coast, right? So I can imagine how difficult that could have been.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the reasons that my boss, they had some shakeup in the Stronach group, and they had an opportunity to come back to Florida to work in a more umbrella type job where I was going to work with him, develop strategies for all the race offices and all of Stronach group, but it's going to be based in Florida, which was a much shorter commute. One, same time zone.
Yes.
And I enjoy Florida. I have friends and family there. All the Canadian guys come down in the winter. Not all of them, but most of the Canadian guys come down in the winter. Yes. So it was an opportunity, and that's sort of why I made that move to leave. When he gave me the opportunity to leave California, even though I love Santa Anita and I love the people, it was a chance to come closer to. I didn't see myself retiring or staying in California for the rest of my life. And that's part of it. But it was nice out there. Racing was unbelievable.
Now, for California, this is some of the questions I have for California, and when it comes to like the sport itself and keeping the integrity of the sport and also preserving the good trainers, how important is it to keep those things intact, even though there's so much controversy around some trainers? How does a racetrack balance that? Because for me as a fan, I still want to see those top trainers, but then I see there's a lot of controversy around some of the trainers, but yet I still want to see them because I'm a fan. How does the racetrack balance it, or can they even do anything? Like, there's so much cancel culture these days.
So I mean, when I was out there, I was part of some major changes in horse racing and some new way of looking at things, new philosophies, new processes we put in place. So, I mean, I think we all know who we're talking about. And I think that every trainer's job, for the most part, is to get the best out of their horse, find loopholes, find advantages in the condition book, and do what they have to do to win without cheating. Right? So
keyword.
Right, and I think horse racing, you have to have that integrity, because if there's people cheating, who wants to bet on a race that he doesn't know what's going on, or that all these horses aren't the way they're supposed to be, or they're on performance enhancing drugs that's making them heads and shoulders above other horses. So integrity is the number one thing. But so we tried to do the best we could with integrity of racing, and California has a lot of rules that is just there for that reason, differently than anywhere else, right? So we implemented some measures on top of that. They have to register workouts with the race office. Any drugs that they use on a horse has to be registered with the commission vets, with our vets.
Okay.
Santa Anita vets. We have vets. Every horse that works in the morning, they go through scrutiny. We look at their PPs, and we have I think there's about 16 factors, and if they land on any of those factors, we go and check at them in the barn. So we go and we have an examination. We have the strictest drug rules out there. You can't inject a horse's knees or ankles or anything for 14 days before a race.
Yeah, but Steve, not crossing you, but was this all done because of all the breakdowns that had going on in Santa Anita? Is that the reason why? Or which came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean...
No. So I mean, this was part of the breakdown rule, but that also encompasses integrity of the game, right? It's stricter drug enforcement. There's more scrutiny on a trainer. Now, one thing that Santa Anita had long before I got there was cameras in every barn.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So for every 3 stalls, there's a camera. So you can't. It's so hard to do anything that's not right there. I had a trainer that we threw off the grounds because we caught him giving a horse some sort of jug before the race.
So hang on, before we start right there, because I'm not a trainer. I'm just, I'm not a trainer. I'm not an owner, and I'm listening. So the sticking, if any sticking happens just before the race. Is this how this works?
No, there. I mean, people do anything, and whatever, right? So there's certain. I'll give you an example. Clenbuterol,
Mm-hmm.
right? So California had the strictest clenbuterol rule. So clenbuterol is a it dilates the bronchial
Yeah, no.
tubes, right?
Yes.
So they found that people were cheating with it.
Mm.
So one of the tests for clenbuterol is it's levels in your system.
Mhm.
But when you check for the levels of clenbuterol after a race, you don't know if it's going up or coming down,
Right.
right? So if they say the level has to be 300 parts to whatever, if that horse checks above that level after a race, then he's disqualified for having clenbuterol in his body. But they found that people were giving horses clenbuterol right before the race
Mm-hmm.
10, 15 years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
what would happen was the horse would run, get the benefit of clenbuterol right away, right? But when you test a horse, it's going up. So if it tests just below the threshold, then the horse is clean.
Right. Right.
But it's because it hadn't had a chance to go up. So that's why they put like you have to stop clenbuterol a week before.
Mm-hmm.
But California was like 2 weeks, and they stretched it to a month. So basically, you can't have any clenbuterol in the
Yes.
body. So it doesn't matter whether it's going up or down. So those are the kind of things that California was doing before Woodbine, before East
And what
Coast.
about what about Butte? Are they what 48 hours Butte, 24 hours what?
They still use that?
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
some
Butte's,
tracks use that.
Butte's an anti-inflammatory, so I mean everybody uses that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Butte was 96 hours out there.
96 hours, 4 days. Okay. Mm.
Now, is it possible for like a top horse to actually run without anything at all, without any Lasix, without any given, I don't know, drug or inflammatory medicine? Is there is that possible?
It happens every day. I mean, except for
Top horses?
Lasix, except for Lasix,
Mm-hmm.
horses are supposed to run clean, and for the most part, I believe that they do. Right? Um, so they get Lasix. California has banned Lasix for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think Woodbine hasn't even done that yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you're saying a top horse? I don't see a difference between a top horse and a bottom horse. I think if you bet $2 on a horse, is a different $2 bill that you or $2 that you're betting on a Secretariat type horse versus a
5,000 maiden claimer.
I mean, we all talk about that. You know, in Grade 1 races they don't use this. My philosophy is don't use anything all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think some drugs are beneficial, but it's either for me it's don't use anything.
Okay.
Trainers will tell you, well, I need this because that calms them down before calcium calms a horse down before a race. And well, a good trainer will school his horse or train him differently to try and alleviate that nervousness before a race. I'm being naive here. I'm being a little naive with some of that stuff, but I do truly believe that I don't think there should be anything given to a horse.
I think that a lot of trainers will probably say, well, they want to get that purse, and getting that purse, they want to get it by any means necessary. Sean, you being a trainer, you being a jock, owner, how do you feel about that?
I mean, here in Barbados is under the English rules, and they're very strict on everything. You can't use, I think, Butte like a week out, or everything is very far, far away. So, the only thing I try to do now for my horses is laser treatment, which is a prevention. I believe that prevention is better than the cure, and I try to stay ahead of any injuries so that there's no reason for me to have to use anything, you know. And most of the times, here in Barbados now, I do a lot of old school stuff that we learned back in the days. You don't have Lasix, and if you have a horse bleeding, and there was a lot of things like grapefruit juice and all this kind of stuff that you give horses that still works. Still
Really?
works. Yeah.
I wanna get back to Steve because Steve has a lot of information, and he touched on the condition books and putting the races together, and I'm wondering for a jockey for horses, as a secretary, as a VP, guy who puts the condition books together, bring the fans to the track. What how does the racetrack see jockeys and see horses? Now, is it a combination, or is it the horses are more has the bigger profile, or the jockeys are the bigger profile? How does the racetrack see that?
I want
Can I-
let me
let me-
before you answer that, I want to add to that because Steve, you remember the last
Let me
time
just add let me just add one thing, Sean, to Derek's point of view.
uh-huh.
When you say top horse, I just want to get something out there. A guy, big time trainers, the top of the top that have the best horses, they have a lot of money that they can throw towards training a racehorse that a small guy might not be. Blood tests all the time, supplements that they can. There's no expense spared giving supplements. If they need to give the horse something, they can give them the best of the best and train a horse that way and come off of everything within the allotted time before they're in a race. So there's a lot more, when a guy like in the old days, Charlie Whittingham or somebody from California, when he had 50 or 100 horses and he was getting top dollar to train them, he could train a horse without sparing any expense. He could have 6 exercise boys that could spend an hour with each horse. Whereas when you're a small trainer and you have a freelance guy saying, "I'll be there in 15 minutes and I have 10 minutes to get him out and I'll be right back," it's a different way of training horses. So they're really good horses. So they have the pedigree to begin with, and then there's nothing spared in terms of training them. So, when you say the integrity of the race, I just think that big guys have an advantage that way, just starting off.
Nice.
But back to your other.
Yeah. No, because when I was with you
Glad
in
you cleared it up.
2018, Steve, you were director of races at Woodbine, and you seem to be. You watch every race. You watch all the riders, and that was part of your job also. That was yeah.
How does the racetrack see riders and who's the star?
Yeah.
We all want the horses to be the star, and the horses are the stars, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is that trainers attract people. Jockeys definitely attract people. So I mean, how do you see the jockeys are typically the stars of the racetrack? They're the ones that everybody knows. They're the ones that are interviewed on TV more. It's a tough job that they do.
It is, yeah.
They put their lives on the line, and at the same time, though, I don't want to get too jockeys there because they chose to do that, right? That's what they want to do. Now, not every jockey is in the same realm as Patrick Husbands, and has made millions of dollars over their lifetime. But they're the stars. I would like to think that horses are the stars, but jockeys are the stars, but when you get a really good horse, they become the star, right?
That's right.
Zenyatta, how many people remember who rode her?
Yeah. I look at Pink
Wasn't that
Floyd,
Mike
he just retired. Pink Floyd. He was
because how was that, Sean?
Pink Floyd. He's another star at Woodbine. I mean, that horse.
Pink Floyd.
Yeah. I mean,
he's retired now, right?
Yeah, he's just retired.
He's retired. But I was gonna ask Steve, like, when it comes to Zenyatta, like Zenyatta is the only horse, and even today, I'm not kidding you. And were you at Santa Anita when Zenyatta was running, or were you at Woodbine?
I was there for that race because I was part of the Breeders' Cup committee, and it was the most magical race I've ever watched, experience I've ever had in horse racing. It was unbelievable. I've never experienced anything like that before, ever.
Wow. I mean, Zenyatta is right now, to be honest, it's the only horse, well, watching Zenyatta's races is the only time that I really kind of like choke up when I watch the replays, because the guy who's calling the races and Zenyatta is coming from way at the back. I'm always like if I'm watching it for the first time, it was just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, she shouldn't have lost that last race. As much as I'm buddies with Mikey Smith and but going back to the Santa Anita Breeders' Cup the year before.
Did you lose money on that?
No, I don't. I don't bet too much. The most money I ever made betting was off of Sean Hall's horse.
Oh, was that was a long shot?
No, it was a pick six. I was in the
Wow.
and it was I didn't a bunch of us got together and made a ticket because I think it was like $200,000 or $300,000 that day.
Wow.
And it was near the beginning of the year, and I remember that same horse, Social Charter, was always a horse that could go to the front 5/8 of a mile, just spit the bit out and maybe run second or third.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, when I was watching this horse train that spring, Sean would go 5/8 and hold him, and then let him loose down the lane, and he'd finish every workout in 22 or whatever. And I said, I'm going to put this horse in because it's a tough race with a group that I was with. I said, Sean Hall is training this horse differently this year. I don't know if you did or not. It was just the way I saw it. And this horse he's not going to stop. And he didn't stop. And there was like 20 of us that won the pick six that day. 2 tickets. I don't know. It was 60,000 or something like that. So.
Wow.
Oh.
I didn't know that, Steve.
I thought I told you that. No?
Oh. I would have bought a guy like Devil Bull and got a drink out of you.
Maybe I do that.
Hey, this is probably the first time that Sean made so many people happy at one time.
Yeah.
Nice.
But that horse was a nice horse. I think he just began to mature, and they started to stretch him out too. And that might be the race I stretch him out in. I don't know, but
it's just different. I mean, I learned a lesson too when I was training once. There was a guy named Tamero, Michael Tamero.
Mm-hmm.
He used to train for King Haven back in the day.
Yeah.
And I had a horse that, man, going 6 furlongs was a little filly. And this was my first year training. This was back when I just got my license. And she'd stop, and it was an old guy that had her. Myers Lakoski, I think his name was. I can't remember. Anyhow, he took the horse away from me and gave it to Tamero. Mm-hmm. And he taught me a lesson. I mean, horse couldn't, like I said, go 5/8 of a mile and just stop.
Yeah.
And the first thing he did with that horse was running in a 2-turn race. And she led wire to wire and won by 10.
Yeah. And
So,
that's what the Charlie used to do it, man. Same
yeah.
thing.
So,
Yeah.
is it...
What do you enjoy most? You enjoy in the office, or you enjoy just kind of like being out there mingling and smelling the stuff from the paddock and just hearing the hustle and the bustle? What do you like most?
That's a catch-22 question. I enjoy being out there and interacting and smelling. I love watching training. But when you're working in the office and you're a racing secretary, everybody wants a piece of you. Either to tell you how bad of a job you're doing, ask for a favor, or just something. So I enjoyed being out there. At the same time, I hated it after a while because it's just you get bombarded all the time. You know? Geez, how did you put that race there? That's like it was. I enjoy it all. I enjoy
What question
being
is now, which Woodbine, Santa Anita, which was your comfort zone? Which was your feel-good place?
Oh, of course, it's Woodbine. I mean, I grew up with all those people.
Yeah. It's like a family, though. Steve, I tell you what, though, Derek. Steve was like the big brother in the group. You know what I mean? He got all those girls wrong in Julie Bell and Sue.
Hang on, though.
In.
Is this something that should not get out? Because I don't want to.
No, because I tell you what, it was like a real family thing, though. I mean, I used to go online with them all the time in the office. You know what I mean?
It was a fun place to work.
Yeah.
Because you know why? All those guys, Julie Bell, all those people We all grew up together.
Yeah.
Her
Yeah.
father was a jockey.
Yes.
She was in the race office when she was 18 years old. I mean,
Yes.
all those people.
So how hard was it to leave then? I mean, come on now.
They tried to talk me out of it. Not
Mm.
not Julie Bell and people I worked with. But my bosses, California's a terrible place. You don't want to be there.
Mhm.
It was hard to leave, but at the same time, I think it was time to leave for me.
Mm.
It was scary leaving someplace you've been for 31 years, job security. I mean, I went from working for Woodbine for 31 years to working for, a company that had a little bit of turnover.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy here. Belinda's not my direct boss, but I've had lots of conversations with her. Not a lot, but she's a wonderful person to work for.
Right.
I like working where I'm working now. It's still a one-on-one job. It's not a big corporate machine where to get something done you have to go through 10 people.
Right.
And 9 of them don't know horse racing. Right?
So, and you were that's in Florida,
That's where I am now. It's a nice place to work.
and that's Gulfstream part, right?
Yeah. It's still the same
And
people that I deal with.
Mhm.
California was a refreshing way to work. It was near the end of my tenure at Woodbine, there was a lot of meetings. They were going through construction and there was a lot of meetings for everything. There was hardly any one-on-one things. It was difficult to implement anything. Whereas San Anita, when I got there, whatever you want to do, you do it. You're in charge of this. You're in charge of that. Now, it doesn't always work out that way, but it was a lot more one-on-one. And it was horse racing. It wasn't about a casino.
Yeah.
It wasn't about any of that. Woodbine had the luxury of making money from the casinos, so it was supplemented the purses and Whereas Stronach Group, where I am now, Santa Anita, Gulfstream, Maryland, most of the money comes from horse racing. People aren't betting on your product, you're not going to make money as a company.
Mhm.
And that was refreshing, scary, and difficult at times.
Yes.
It was refreshing. It wasn't, I'm things like this used to just drive me crazy at Woodbine.
So, all right, this next question I ask you then. So, do you think that the casino business has really destroyed or interfered with horse racing? That's your opinion?
So the purses are up.
I think it's saved horse racing
Uh-huh.
when it came in. But if they're not careful, it's a slow death with it. It changed some things. It changed some things that you can't get back. Like I said, there's a lot of money at Woodbine. A horse at Woodbine now is running for $125,000 in a maiden special weight race, right?
Special weight.
If you get all the Ontario bred, Ontario sired money and blah blah blah, it's 125. That's unheard of.
Wow.
Okay?
It's shocking.
But that being said, there's less breeders every year. The horse population's gone down to nothing. And big outfits can buy a $200,000-$300,000 horse, right? And just dominate, even if they're not getting the full 125 and they're only getting 65 or 75,000. They can still dominate because winning 75,000, even if it's Canadian dollars, is, and I know guys at Woodbine are going to hate me for saying this, but winning a maiden special weight in Toronto is so much easier than winning a maiden special weight in Santa Anita. All right, if you see the pedigree, just open up a racing form and look at the pedigrees and look at the horses that are running in a maiden special weight in California versus what's running at Wood. I have nothing. Woodbine's my home, and there's levels for every horse.
Yes.
But the casino has shrunk the game to a point where it's like the world, I guess. There's lots of money in few hands, and a handful of people control a lot of the purse money at Woodbine.
So
and everyone else.
They should touch on that. Like when it comes to the purses and it comes to the maiden special weight and so forth. So does it make it, since you put together condition books as well? Does it make it interesting for the guy who's doing that to make sure that a trainer doesn't ship in from, say, in the U.S. and just kind of like snap that purse away from the Canadian trainers or owners, just like that?
That happens all the
So
time.
there's a couple of things. First of all, I don't want you to think that I'm slamming Woodbine, because Woodbine still puts
No,
on a
no,
great
of course
product.
not. No, of course
There's
not.
still 14, like, I mean, the field size of Woodbine doubles what it is at California. So when you're watching a race from Woodbine, it's nice to watch. The horse is competitive and there's lots of horses. Now, do I think that they should stop horses from shipping in when I'm putting condition book? I don't think so. Horse racing is horse racing. Competition is competition. I wouldn't want to stop anybody from shipping in. If you want to stop certain horses from running in certain races, then you write that in the condition book
Mhm.
for Canadian breds only, for Ontario sires only, and then that. No, if I guess an American could buy an Ontario sire horse, but
Of
it's
course.
bred in Canada, it's bred in Ontario.
Yeah.
I think anything that you do to stifle competition, it waters down what you have. Plus, you want those Americans there. You want those big guys there. You want people to come to your racetrack and race. And if they're doing a better job in taking the money, then you got to step your game up.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know, I don't think I don't think we should be stopping any of that. Everyone says, "Oh, Mark Cassidy comes and takes," but Mark Cassidy invests in Toronto and Woodbine. How many people has he given assistant trainers jobs who have gone on to be good trainers and made money and buy horses from Canadian breeders and Mark has done great things for Woodbine.
Myself,
I think so.
Mark Cassie's employed a lot of Barbadians,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of Barbadians going back now many years. So I never have a problem, with Mark Cassie. I think he's great in business and
I'm just using him as an example. If you're talking about American guys coming in,
Of
but
course.
I don't think there should be anything to limit people from coming and racing at Woodbine, because it helps everyone. If that horse comes in and people are betting it, or we're still trying to, as a racetrack, Woodbine, Santa Anita, Gulfstream, we're still selling our product, right?
Mhm.
And that's what modern horse racing is. It's not that localized racing that it used to be, which I think is great, because localized racing, people come and watch it, and that's how you get new owners, right? You don't get a new owner from a guy betting on horse racing on a computer. You get a new owner from coming to the racetrack, smelling the horses, and meeting a crazy guy like Sean Hall, saying, "Hey, I want to give him a horse, or I want to be around him every day," or and that's how you get new owners and people interested in horse racing. So there's nothing wrong with the localized business of horse racing, but horse racing today is global. You're trying to sell your product. If it's a very localized product with only Ontario trainers, Ontario owners on Ontario horses, a guy in New York's going to go, "I don't know any of those people. What the hell am I watching it for?"
yeah, yeah,
Right? But if Todd Pletcher has a bunch of horses there, if Chad Brown has a bunch of horses
yeah.
there, or whoever, "Oh, hey, Pletcher has one here. Who? What?" And then people start watching your product, and you can sell it more, and it just helps everyone.
It sounds to
So
me like you said Todd Pleasure, you said Chad Brown and Mark Cassidy. Like these are all prominent trainers. These are all well-known trainers within the industry. How important is it for tracks to have those type of guys? Not specifically those guys, but a guy like those guys that everyone knows their name. You know what I mean?
again, it's good and it's bad. At Woodbine, everybody talks about Mark Cassidy. Can't win a race. Mark Cassidy wins all the races. But everyone knows Mark Cassidy. And I'll tell you right now, the same thing is said about, um, same thing is said in California about the white-haired wonder there.
You see, everyone paused, right? Nobody said anything.
Anyhow, it's just so. I think that those type of guys that dominate, it's a love-hate relationship, because they bring good horses. They bring horses that people want to watch. They those big guys. you want to come and see those horses run,
Yeah.
right? But the local horseman is, I can't beat them. I can't beat them. I can't beat. The truth of it is, you take away Mark Cassie from Woodbine, you probably get more people buying horses, and but it's not going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
He has name and cachet that I wouldn't say it brings it legitimizes racing in Canada, but it definitely gives a name association, right? He just had a horse in the Pegasus past this weekend. I don't
So
see any
when's
other
the
Woodbine guys with horses in the Pegasus or Derby or. I mean, you're going to get some of them. There's a bunch of trainers at Woodbine are on the cusp of being really big, and I think Canadians on a whole are a little different from Americans, whereas they don't tend to have satellite outfits. J.C. Myers back in the '80s, but Canadian guys they stay home. Sittard, Tiller, those guys don't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a second string.
But do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't think it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's just economics. Can they do it?
Mm-hmm.
Can Tiller have a second tier of horses in New York? It's going to be tough because he doesn't have the owners, right?
Right.
And
right.
why leave someplace when you're running for 125 and dominating?
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame them for not leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that most Canadian guys, they don't. It's not on their mind to expand that way. They want to expand within Woodbine, and one of the things that's troubling the horse racing game today is these mega stables, right? Guys in California, they have 200 horses between the 3 racetracks there. It's hard to beat those guys, especially when I'm as a person trying to put a race together, and there's 15 or 10 horses in a certain category that I want to pull from, and 6 or 7 of them are from one trainer. He can only run 2 of those horses, so now that cuts that whole size down to something where I'm going to have a 6-horse field at the best. And at Woodbine, I haven't been there for a few years now, but Kevin Attard's got a pretty big outfit now, right? Cassie, Mike DePaulo, those guys they're big. They control a lot of horses, and they can only run 2 horses in each race. But you need them,
Yeah, definitely.
and you don't and I used to get blamed for this a lot, and everybody gets blamed for it. Oh, all you care about is the big guys. All you care about is Smart Cassie. Listen, I told you at the beginning of this whole thing that I used to try and take care of the small guys. But at the end of the day, when I'm trying to fill entries, Mark Cassie's going to enter 10 horses for a day. A smaller guy might enter 10 horses in a month. So at the end of the day, I'm going, hey, how many horses did Mark make his entries? I'm not asking if Joe Blow made his entries. I'm asking if Mark Cassie made his entries. I'm asking if Kevin Attard made his entries. And if they haven't, let's get on the phone and see what's going on. Because if they don't enter, if I have a draw day and Cassie or Kevin Attard or Mike DePaul doesn't have a half a dozen horses to enter, I did something wrong. Right? There's something going on where, hey, where are those horses?
Now you at Gulfstream now, and I see there's a rising young trainer over there who comes from Barbados, Safi Joseph Jr., and he seems to be like becoming that, I wouldn't say the white hair guy, but he's becoming very popular and very, like, the media is loving him, and he's becoming like a star over there. I don't know, like, is that what's happening, or am I just imagining stuff?
Now, before you answer that, Safi guys watch this show, so you better say something nice.
Hey, look, I can't control what comes out of my mouth.
I don't know him very well. Right? I don't know the guys in at Gulfstream very well. I haven't been there a whole lot. I'm going to be there full time come the end of this month. But I think he's a good trainer. He runs a lot of horses. He definitely knows what he's doing. I've seen him run at Woodbine a few times when I was there, but he was just starting to get big then. I don't know. I don't have much to say about him because I don't know him that well.
Well,
But
I mean,
I'm like you. When I'm maybe a little bit more, but I'm just watching him as a fan, as a
that's
guy that's
right. That's
training
right.
horses, right?
Mm.
Because he's doing really well. Like I watch the races on TV and I see him, put some horses that people write off right away and they win. And and he's completely shocking the American commentators. All the professionals, the analysts. He's always shocking them. So I was just wondering if you had known or have a relationship with him, but obviously you don't.
No, I don't have a relationship. I mean, guys that do that always they bring scrutiny to themselves. I mean, if you're winning at too high a percentage, if you're taking horses and changing their form, people are always going to be looking at you. But like I said, I don't know him, but I think he does a good job. I don't think there's anything there other than he just does a good job.
Hmm. Cool.
I've never watched him. I've never watched him real close and see what kind of horses he's claiming or where he's getting these horses from or how does he train his horses. I mean, I like to watch to see how trainers train their horses and what they do with their horses. I mean, just because a guy's doing well doesn't mean he's doing something bad. Let's
Yeah, good.
let's start at that level to begin with,
Well,
and let
no,
them
I mean,
show you.
no, I mean that's fine. I don't want it to become controversial. I just want to like now do a secretary or someone involved in the racetrack business. Do people pay close attention to stuff like that, or is it just winners? Do they look at the new guy or the guy in the last 2 3 years or the guy in the last year? Do they pay more attention to those type of situations?
We pay attention to anything that's not normal. It's not normal for a trainer to be training at a certain level and all of a sudden in 2 years becomes a top trainer with a 35 win percentage. Right? That's not normal. Um, it's not normal to win at a high clip all the time. Um, so as administrator, as an administrator and a racing secretary, yeah, I look at all those abnormal things. Why is this top trainer not doing well now? Why is this trainer who's been at this level for so long all of a sudden doing so well? Is he? And it might be legitimate, and most of them are. Is he getting new owners? Maybe he's got a new owner that's propelled him to a different level of the game. And it's hard to say for me that somebody's discovered something new in horse racing and lighten it on fire because horse racing's been around for a long time. And for the most part, the horse hasn't really changed. Obviously, nutrition and training methods, they've changed and made the horse a different animal from it was 30 years ago. But we're always, I think as an administrator, you're always looking at the integrity of the game. And more so now, we're looking at injuries in the game, right? Because there's lots of people out there saying, hey, you guys are cruel to racehorses. You're forcing them to do something they don't want to do. That's not true. I think Sean knows he galloped horses for a long time. You get on their back and they see the racetrack. It's not like you have to force them to gallop.
There they go.
Lots of times you're stopping them from galloping too fast, right? So, I mean, you're always watching for the integrity of the game, watching out for the integrity of the game. I think part of my job as a racing secretary is to protect guys like you, Derek, that bet on the races, bet on horses. I want you to feel like you're using your smarts to outsmart the next guy. Because horse racing you're not betting against the house, you're betting against all the other gamblers,
That's right.
So it doesn't matter what we do as a house. I just want to make sure that you feel like you're using your smarts to find something that everybody else can't find and make some money on horse racing without somebody cheating and making that difficult for you to do. So, part of what I do is like it's very complicated. I want to make sure the gamblers have a product that they can win at, and make sure the horsemen have opportunities to make money, and most importantly, my employer can make money to keep me employed.
That's right.
That's we're always fighting that every day. Stuff that I know that I have to do in order to put on a competitive race. Trainers are like, what the hell? How am I going to win that race? Every time I put a horse in, I get 14 horses.
Mm-hmm.
I can never win. They want a 5-horse field.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a lot of 5-horse fields, no one's going to bet.
Yeah.
Now does the racetrack love rivalry? Like I remember back in the days, it used to be, I think Patrick, Jay McElhaney, like those guys would be fighting for the
God,
top
God,
prize.
God,
Like, does the
God,
racetrack
God.
love those kind of situations,
How
or
about George Hosang and Sandy Hawley and Beckett and all that? No, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
I don't know those
You're
guys.
going back in time.
yeah. Anything that makes it exciting is there. I'll give you an example. I'm a big Formula One fan, right? And Formula One, for years and years, nobody wants to watch it. They all drive around in a line. All the big all the big cars win. It's just boring.
Mm-hmm.
But this year they had a big fight between two race car drivers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The black driver, Lewis Hamilton, and Max Verstappen. And it's been the best year Formula One's had in years because of that rivalry. So, yes, we want to see that rivalry. We want to see somebody knock the top rider off his perch, or they're going down the last month of racing, a couple wins here, a couple wins there, and they're back and forth. Or, we want to see that. We want to see, and we want to, it's to a lesser, we want to see two top horses go at it every race that they hook up against each other.
That's right.
Moving down the lane. And so, I mean, we have no control over that as a track administrator, but yeah, we want to see competitive racing. We want to see guys fighting it out and the top guys fighting it out. And those are the stars, like you said earlier. That's why riders are the stars.
And quality horses coming to your racetrack is important. I guess over at Gulfstream, was it, I think last week it was Pegasus. So I mean, that was a lot of hype over there. I remember my most memorable moment watching racing at Woodbine was, I believe, when Funny Side came to Woodbine and just kind of destroyed the track. But I like those. Is it important that top horses, visit these tracks?
Yes, that's why we give out stupid amounts of money. That's why Woodbine had $3 million races. And at one point, we had the second biggest race next to the Breeders' Cup, the Canadian International. And we have some top horses come there over the years. Secretariat ended his career there. Yeah. They come from Europe. The mile is a very important race. Yes, every racetrack wants to capture that number one horse, right? Every racetrack wants to do that. But it's more difficult these days because there's so many racetracks now giving out $1 million races. England has their Champions Day. Ireland has their Champions Day. Breeders' Cup. So, when you have the Breeders' Cup on this day, you can only have a prep race maybe a month before it. Mm-hmm. So every racetrack clamoring to have those big races that weekend, which makes it a month before the Breeders' Cup day of racing. So, Woodbine gets lost in that, right?
And
with the International or the or the mile or any of those races, it's you have no idea how hard it is or how hard we work trying to get top horses. I mean, you start months in advance. Hey, you're going to come to Woodbine with that horse? Hey, we're giving away this money. It leads right into this race. We should really give it a shot. There's lots of hard work going in towards it.
I remember Julie Bell. I used to say, I'm amazed how she used to be calling all around the world, Ireland, England, States, wherever those good horses were, she was calling. You have a big race here, just reminding people. And I found that was very important to do. I mean, it taught me a lot that it's just not, you just putting a race there and hoping and wishing and hoping. You have workers who go there selling the race. Very important.
It's very important. Those marquee days, it puts your name on the map. I mean, doesn't matter what you do the rest of the time. Those marquee days puts your name out there, right? that racetrack in West Virginia, Charlestown.
Charlestown, yes.
They have
So
some
much
of the
already.
cheapest racing in North America, but for one
Yes.
day of the year,
They got
they
that
give
one.
away a ton of money, and lots of the big guys go and race there, and everybody
Yes.
watches it.
Yes.
That's why people know Charlestown racetrack.
Mhm.
Otherwise, there's no reason to really watch unless you're running a horse there or you're from that area, or
But we got two
Now,
Bajing guys right in there, you know. We got Latchman and Trotman.
Oh yeah,
Kimar Trotman, yeah, two Barbadian guys. They're doing pretty good too.
it's funny, It's I mean, I'm making a 180 here, but speaking of Bayesian riders and workers, when I first came to Canada in the mid '70s, it was all Jamaicans. I wasn't say all Jamaicans, but it was
what
mostly
happened?
Jamaican. I don't know. We all got kicked out, I think.
Wilson
What
Wilkinson,
caused
that's the guy
that?
I was
Kicked out of the
talking about.
country.
Winston Wilkinson, you remember him?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a Barbadian.
yeah, but I'm just saying, like, but most of the grooms and exercise and those they were all Jamaicans and
Yes.
Trinidadians.
Yes.
And now it's a shift where most of the workers that we have and new people at Woodbine are all Bayesians now.
Yes.
There's not too many Jamaican trainers. There's not too many Jamaican workers that are straight from the island. I mean, they could be second, third generation here. But it's just a shift. And
But don't forget, we came there in the late 80s, and a lot of those guys didn't go back. And
Yeah.
then started their own family, they have children, you know what I mean? My daughter worked with Mark Cassie.
yeah,
And,
Bayesians have done very well there. I mean, they're good horsemen.
Yeah.
I think there's lots of opportunity, and with so many guys being part of the industry, it's a really good opportunity for those guys to get together and do some really, really good things. Maybe not as big as the big trainers and the big barns and so forth, but pretty good that they can make something happen. I think the more you're together, the more that you could probably flourish.
Yeah, I think that's for me. I'm in my early 50s right now, and I think at some point I'd like to go back to the Caribbean and help those guys and help those racetracks and
Awesome.
That's great, man.
Make
So would you make us talk to Barbados?
yeah, I mean, I don't see myself ever living in Jamaica again or living in Trinidad but I definitely, and it's not about money or anything. It's just about helping those racetracks maybe move to another level from where they are, helping them distribute their product, helping them with integrity and lameness and just stuff you've learned. I mean, I've worked at a couple big racetracks in North America, and I've seen a perspective. For me, there's not too many guys in the racing game like myself.
It's true.
I was part of the International Handicappers Committee that used to go to Hong Kong every year. So I have a knowledge of European racing and Asian racing. I have a strong knowledge of North American racing. I grew up around Caribbean, so I know how the Caribbean racing works and the attitudes of those trainers. And I think eventually, at some point when I'm half retired, I'd like to go back and help Caymanas Park and
Put Barbados on that list. Garrison Savannah, please.
But now you
You're my
see how
friend. Remember that. You're my friend.
I will.
see how
I will.
now you see how Hong Kong how Japanese racing has taken off too. Like those places, racing is getting pretty big.
So Japan, I would love to see Canada do what Japan did. Right? So Japan the rest of the world works differently than North America. Horse racing in England is run by the British Racing Authority, right?
Right.
They control all the racing, the stewards, and then the racetracks are just places where they run.
Yeah.
They control everything. They manage everything. Same thing with Ireland. France Gallo controls all of racing in France. And what Japan did, but you got to take their mindset too, right? They're very focused people. They made an assault on North American race. They wanted to win the Arc. They wanted to win the Derby, right? So they have, but what they've done is the Japanese National Stud Program. So what they did starting 20 years ago, they went around and bought up a bunch of good stallions and offer them to their Japanese breeders, so that the breed was getting better and better and better. Whereas, Canada, you know, um, Gardner might have a stud, or
Mhm.
this guy might have a stud. I think the game in Canada is shrunk enough now that we need a Canadian stud program. We
Mhm.
need a group of people that are smart in the business going out and getting studs and bringing them here, or maybe breeding some mares here to get things kickstarted again, because there's
Mhm.
lots of money here,
Mhm.
right?
So what that mean?
So
We need a
those
star. We need a big star
Stallion.
no,
horse,
you don't need a
obviously.
big stud. You just need a decent stud. You need, like, who's going to bring a $5 million stud here or a $3 million stud here? No one.
Mhm.
But if it's a national breed program, and everyone's contributing to that, maybe the government's contributing to that, then you bring a $5 million stud here or a $2 million stud here, or whatever that might be. um, and you kickstart it, and you put some good mares to them, right?
Mhm.
And you have some good mares that maybe the national program owns, or you encourage Mark Cassie's owners to breed they're going to breed to a decent stud.
Mhm.
And if it's a decent stud and he's Canadian bred, they're going to get that 125 instead of 75,000,
Mhm.
right? Those kind of things. I think that Japan has done quite well, and the rest of the world. Japan went around and they bought up a lot of our good horses went to Japan and
Mhm.
Australia. So I think it might be time for us as Canadians to get organized and start a program like that. But who's going to run it? And there's lots of obstacles and things we have to get over to have that happen. But I think it's time that it happens.
Now, when it comes to COVID, and I know you say you get into Gulfstream at the end of the month. How important is it for the racetrack to get those fans back at the track? I mean, in the States, I don't think they have stopped, but uh, in Canada, it's kind of shrunk a little bit. I mean, they're doing more online betting. Uh, but how important is it to get back to the track and get that feeling?
I think most racetracks are doing quite well now because you don't have to pay as many people to have at a racetrack, and you're going to get the same kind of bet online. But that being said, I think it's important. Like I said before, it's important to have fans at the racetrack. It's important for people to experience horse racing on that level, see the horses, smell the horses, meet the characters, meet the people at the racetrack to become true fans. I don't, if you're just betting on horse racing on online or on TV or on the phone, it's a betting vehicle, and there's lots of those things out there, right? There's lots of betting you can do online, but there's very few sports or gambling that gives you the spectacle of horse racing, right? It's a different experience. It's a I don't know. It's a you go to a baseball game for 60 minutes. You're watching it, and it's different watching horse racing. It's something exciting is happening every 25 minutes. And you're gambling. I mean, you're putting money down. It's and even if you don't bet, it's an exciting product to watch. It's hard to get that watching it on TV. I think it translates well to TV and online, but nothing beats an afternoon at the track for me.
Mhm.
Or if you're lucky enough to own a horse or be on the backstretch in the morning, that's pretty nice too. But to answer your question, I don't think it will make or break horse racing if we don't get all the fans back on track. But it's a slow burn going downhill if you don't get them back.
That's right. I find like I personally, if we go to the track, we pick like what we would call big races where there's more people, and we could experience the crowd and to hear that kind of noise when the horses turn for the home stretch. Like people around me love that, and for me, it's always fun to watch the newcomers, the look on their face when they see how when the guys are like cheering and they're like they're out of their minds, right? I love to see that.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you right now, every trainer, not every trainer, every owner that owns a racehorse should go to the Breeders' Cup,
Mhm.
because big days are big days. we've had big days at Santa Anita. Gulfstream has their big day. Woodbine has their big day, but there's nothing like going to the Breeders' Cup on their big day. It's just an amazing, amazing atmosphere. It's an amazing event, and I think whatever you feel when you go to a big day at Woodbine, times it by 100 to go to the Breeders' Cup. Is like it's an event that's an event. A lot of people can't afford some of the stuff that they sell, but you're getting a racetrack that how many racetracks do we see anymore that is completely filled, right? Santa Anita holds 80,000 people, and the only time that comes close to filling it is when the Breeders' Cup's there. Not the Santa Anita Derby, none of those races. But those big events, and I've been to a few big events. I've been to the Arc, I've been to the Hong Kong international races.
I was just going to ask you to get back to the Melbourne Cup.
I've never been to the Melbourne Cup, but
that would be
there's you know what? That would probably be a bigger event than the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, man.
Like you said, the whole country stops.
The holiday stops. I was in Australia when that happened. Yeah.
But when you're a part of those big events, it's an amazing feeling. It's just such a great feeling.
One of my friends told me that about the Kentucky Derby. He drove to Kentucky with his dad and a couple friends, and he said Derek boy, he's a Trini. He said Derek boy, there's nothing like that boy. I mean, like it's like it was a tremendous feeling, like just to be there. Like he was telling me, it's outstanding.
For me, big days are just they're a great feeling. But I also like the quiet days of the racetrack, and it's you and your 6 buddies that are there every day, talking about who you're going to bet, who you like. Man, this guy just gave me a ride like you can't believe. I can't. It's just the whole thing of being at a racetrack is it's something to experience. Winning a race with your horse. There's nothing like it. Whether it's a $6,000 race.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know. I never won any of the big ones, but I mean, it's nice to win races.
Now, I don't know how much time Sean had told you to stay on the show for.
No, I thought it was going to be about an hour.
We can go forever, but I don't want to keep you back if you got something else to do. But before you go, I wanted to ask you, looking back and to see Steve right now, like, you think your dad would be like he would be proud of you, like just to watch you grow as a person, involved in the industry, the travel, the places that you've been, and to have these aspirations to come back to the Caribbean and do some big things and help the guys down there, just to expand, the tracks and the vision and stuff like that. Like, I'm sure your dad would be very, very proud of you.
I'm more interested about his mom.
My mother's passed away too. But she was around when I became racing secretary.
Yes.
My mother was very proud of me, I think. She was also scared.
Yes.
I don't know. It's
why was she scared?
Well, you're always afraid for your son and daughter or whoever.
Wrong horses.
Not just horses, just don't keep getting bigger that you're gonna get fired or you're gonna lose your job or I mean, she's like Jamaican mother.
I know my mother hated me wrong horses when I started. I mean, it was the worst thing ever.
And my mother she didn't like the racetrack.
Yeah, my mother neither.
Right? She I don't think she ever went to a day. She went to the backstretch, but she's never been to the races.
If it was my father, I would never be at a racetrack.
And she was very proud of me, but she was also worried, right? Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't from Europe when I first started.
Right.
So, there's
always that concern.
there's always that. But like I said, when I got the job and I first became racing secretary, the people that were on the board of directors for Woodbine did nothing but make me feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. Nothing. They were so good to me. So good to me.
But that's Woodbine though, Steve. I can't say I have I had a great time at Woodbine, man. I mean, the people
Yeah,
were great. Everybody made you feel like at home. I felt more at home in Canada than I do here in Barbados. And I'm a Barbadian.
yeah, but you left.
I guess that's a big problem. But
Yeah, it's
Canada was
I,
great for me, man.
yeah,
I met good friends. Oh, you, I could always chat with you anytime,
yeah.
anybody, you know.
I've always joked about. I mean, I joke about that stuff, but the establishment at Woodbine has done nothing but made me feel comfortable
Mhm.
working there, training there. It's a very nice place to be. It was
I
a nice
agree.
place to be.
I agree.
And I get that same feeling where I am now.
Great.
Mm.
That's great.
I mean, I get treated very well where I am now.
Because that's another thing I'm gonna ask you because Canada is Canada. Canada always felt homey for me, but sometimes when you cross the border, you get that sense of, you're not in Canada anymore.
No, California. There's definitely when you're in the States, there's definitely a tension and a vibe that you feel, and it's not necessarily racial. It's more of, hey man, you got to do it on your own. There's no safety net here. There's nobody
Mm-hmm.
cares whether you end up on the streets or you don't end up on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
It's a it's a different vibe. And I can tell you something being a Canadian. And if you see an American and they tell you, nobody cares about healthcare, we don't want a healthcare system like they do in Canada. Everybody cares about healthcare in America.
Yeah.
It's the
Wow.
number one. It's the number one topic for workers.
Mhm.
It's
So
every worker, because we had a system where you had to work a certain amount of hours in the current year to get healthcare for the next year,
Right.
and that's all they talked about. That's all people. Healthcare is number one. I don't know why it's not more prominent in the news.
I was
but
gonna say, why don't they put it at the forefront? But they don't.
more people care about healthcare than they care about owning a gun, and the gun's pretty popular down there.
Oh yeah.
But you hear about the Second Amendment every day. But
Mhm.
people care about their health care, man. It's very important to
I
them.
never forget when Laurie Severe got sick in Ocala. I remember Mrs. Severe telling me, Sean, I'm heading home. I mean, he instead of going to the hospital in the States, he drove 24 hours to get back to Canada.
Yeah.
And I mean, that tells you a lot. I mean,
Don't get me-
even when you're down there, you don't want to get hurt down there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. Healthcare in America is the doctors and the technology is pretty good. It's just
Yeah, but
that
what
it's
the
just
money?
how you going to pay for it.
Yeah, you got the money to pay that?
Yes.
You know?
That's the thing, right? I mean, I got a pretty good healthcare insurance with my company, but they have something in the States called copay. I never heard of that till I went there.
Uh-huh.
That means no matter what happens, how well you're protected, you still got to pay something.
There's a lot of guys who, when they hear pay, they they immediately turn around. It's like pay.
Yeah, but the healthcare that they have in the States is very good. Like if you're sick, they're going to take care of you and quickly.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
I hope I never experience it, but
mhm.
they do have good healthcare down
You're
there.
a strong fella, man. Don't worry about that.
Thank you.
Well, Sean, do you have? I know you had a bunch of questions that you wanted to ask from the Barbados side. So, if you want to go ahead and ask Steve before
No, I
we
mean, we talked
winding
about
down.
everything. Steve, I'm pretty cool with what we said today. Not to go for another hour, but
But
I would love to come and visit Barbados and go and see how they run
what should
their
I do? You want me to put wheels in motion? Do you want an invitation?
I don't know. I don't have the time right now.
But tell me when you come
hey,
in.
when is the Gold
Steve.
Cup? When is
Let's
the
let's
Gold
work
Cup?
this out.
When is the Gold Cup, Sean?
Well, I don't know. Gold Cup was supposed to be on March the 5th, but no, it's not running this year again. The Coolmore is taking over for the Gold Cup, so we're hoping that when this COVID thing quiets down again, it'll be March next year. But it's a good time to come, Steve.
It's like I went to Kimness Park about 3 or 4 years ago,
Mhm.
maybe 4 years ago, 4 or 5, I don't know. And I got to see the race office and meet some people down there, and I mean, just from walking around, there was 100 things I could do instantly to improve that racetrack. You know, it's just because you see it. I know that there's different attitudes and there's different levels of what kind of money you have to run things and all that kind of stuff. But there's so many simple little
I'm
things.
so glad you said that.
You know what I was. I did work for Puerto Rico, right?
Yes.
To try and change their system
Yes.
a little bit, and Puerto Rico's another one.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of money, but just the way they run things, it could be so much more efficient.
Yeah, I mean that's the same thing. I mean, when I come at home and you get frustrated and you act out and people think you're just a bad actor, but I've hung with guys like you for a long time, all of you in the office, so I know how you guys do things, and I don't see it here. And when I talk about it or say anything, it's always like, you guys who went overseas think you know everything now, you know.
Well,
But
at some point, economics rules everything, right?
yes,
You need a certain amount of funding and a certain budget
mm-hmm.
to make things work. You know, at Woodbine, when you have 6, 7 guys in the race office, Caribbean race office, like what? We have 2 people, you know, doing everything. So there's certain levels of how things are done, and then there's the skilled people that you need to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Right? And I get all that. But there is some stuff that sometimes it's just you're there too long and there's too much baggage around you. You need somebody new to come in and say,
Mm-hmm.
just because you've been doing like that for 50 years doesn't make it right.
Thank you for saying that.
Like, you pretty much need new vision, right? Like
Yes.
anything, any industry always need a refresher, right?
Yes, you know what I mean. And anytime I say something like that, but you know, who are you gonna get? That's the first thing I say. You know what I mean?
Right, but you're saying that to the guys that are doing that job now. Look at this guy, he's trying to get me fired.
Not that I'm trying to get anybody fired. I want some new blood to. I
You
want some
need it.
neutral people, man. Some
Yeah, you
neutral
need it.
things going on. I hate seeing people writing races and their trainers and their owners and they're writing races. You know, you always got in the back of your head is, you know, what's going on here? You know,
Is that allowed?
Is
Is that like you just said something very interesting? You said writing, like training, you know, like you got people all trying. Like, to me, it sounds like if you got like a bunch of people just kind
That's
of
how it
hovering
is.
over that money. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know, but it is a bad taste in your mouth when it's not a neutral person. I mean, you never really own no horses when you were working, doing that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It was always,
When I was working at Woodbine,
yeah.
no, I was never allowed to own any horses. I mean, if I did own one, I'm pretty sure to be a race there for him all the time.
Let me see. That's exactly how I feel. That's how I feel. You know, and you know, said it. You couldn't own a horse, right?
I think it's important that the guys that own the racetrack,
Yeah.
the big guys own horses,
Yeah.
because they need to be invested in the game.
Yeah.
But the technical people,
You need
the,
people to bring them
the
in. hire them,
workers,
man.
the racing
Hire people.
secretary, the director of racing, those shouldn't be anywhere near ownership of a racehorse.
I was gonna ask you, Steve, like from an office point of view, what's more like to people who run a racetrack? What's more important, like being part of that, like the actual races and running races, or is it more of the whole corporation where you get people to actually make money on the races? Like what's more important to those people who run those types of corporations?
I think at the end of the day, and I hate to say this, but at the end of the day, if you have a racetrack full of a bunch of passionate racing people, you're going to go broke. Right? You need those smart money people that don't really care about horse racing. You need a certain amount of them to run the business. But they need to be educated by the racing people so that they're running the business properly and doing what's right for horse racing. Because if you don't do what's right for horse racing, it's not going to last. You know, it's horse racing is something, except for Arizona, it's not you go to school and learn how to market horse racing, or you learn how to be an executive at a racetrack. You know, was telling Sean earlier. I'm a senior VP now. I've been operations guy my whole life at a racetrack, and I don't even know if I'm qualified to run a McDonald's, right? Because it's very specific what I do. Um, but at the same time, I mean, operations is operations, right? But my supply chain is different from that supermarket supply chain or tech company supply chain. But it's very specific. The important thing at a racetrack, once you get past the racing secretary, all those guys really care about, past my level. All those guys really care about is the health of the company.
Nice.
The health of Santa Anita Racetrack, the health of Stronach Group, the health of Woodbine. But those guys need to be tempered by the racing people, and they need to have racing people above them, right? So the CFO and the CEO, they need racing guys to tell them what to do, right? They need to run the business so it's profitable or it makes money, but they need to do what's right by racing, in my opinion.
Now you know what I like about like the guys who own horses and stuff like that. Like on big days, you see them in suits and you see them in fancy shoes and all that stuff. But then when you see like a little clip, or if you ever happen to run into these guys, you see them in flip flops and they're not shit and they're all like grizzly and they look normal. I love seeing that because these guys show me that they're like hardworking guys who put a lot of things together. It's only on the big days that they look all shiny, but normal.
I don't know about that. You're talking about California. I don't come to work like that, but it's pretty. New York, the East Coast, except for Florida, is pretty corporate. Most of the guys at Woodbine, the executives, they're all in suits every day. Most of the guys in New York, they're pretty well dressed every day. California's a little more laid back. Florida, it's 1,000 degrees every day, so it's not so much three-piece suits. Yeah, I like that too. It's nice getting dressed up on big days, but it's also nice not having to wear a suit every day to work.
What's the day that you look forward to every year?
When I was at Woodbine, it was International Day. Now, I'm at a level now where I don't enjoy big days as much anymore. I do enjoy them, but I'm looking for all the problems and making sure that there's no problems and making sure we're getting the right horses. And those days are stressful. Right up until the last race. Like, I was at Santa Anita, and we were having breakdowns in the Breeders' Cup. I was, part of the Breeders' Cup, and we were having a great day. And then that horse broke down in the last race, and it ruined the whole feeling of everything. It was terrible, right? So at Woodbine, my favorite day of racing is International. Now, I don't really have of course, Pegasus or Santa Anita Derby Day or the days that we have that are big days, but they're more stressed than anything right now for me.
Are you so passionate about it, or is it all business now for you?
I'm still passionate about it. I still love horse racing, but it's I am more business since I left Woodbine than when I was up. Woodbine, it was more family business, and I was taking care of family business. Now I still give the Stronach Group everything I have and everything that I did at Woodbine, maybe more, but it's not a family business anymore.
No, but I noticed that change in you when I saw you in 2018 when you were the director of racing there. You weren't that Steve, that laid back guy. You were nothing missed you, man. You were like a hawk. You saw a rabbit 10 miles away.
At a certain level, at a certain point, you're responsible for a lot of people. I mean, when I left Woodbine, I used to, and because I was always accessible, I used to get people. I became sort of I don't want to say a father figure, but I became someone people came to for little dinky reasons, just knowing that I would take care of them.
You always
You
said
know,
that
like,
though. Yeah, you always that fatherly like guy,
yeah,
man. Come
you know,
on,
I'd
you
get
always was.
outriders would come in and be fighting. This guy doesn't want to help me. There, and I found myself trying to take care of it. Was a babysitting job. And I didn't mind it because I cared for those people.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Um, but at some point you get to the level where it's business and you're responsible for a lot of people. If you goof something up, it's um it's not nice to be chewed out by a billionaire.
Mm.
You know,
I hear you. And that's what it feels
it's
like for I guess for a
and I
lot
was the
of
kind of guy that
small
I
guys,
tried to
right?
make sure that yeah, I tried to make sure that it was it was a uh, it was somewhere where people could do business and feel comfortable doing business there, whether you were a billionaire or had a couple $100 in your pocket.
Mhm,
I gotcha.
So
I mean, I'm running out of questions here. Sean, do you have any more for Steve?
mhm. I mean, Steve, I know this guy for the longest while. We've we've talked for hours. I mean, this feels like a normal day with me sitting down with Steve. Okay.
I'm just glad to be part of the conversation.
No, I mean, this is how it is. We sit and we just discuss whatever comes along, and
I don't.
I'm so happy to see you're still the same old Steve, man.
I'm not sure if we've ever solved anything though.
We don't have to.
You
We
know,
don't have to. The conversation was always great.
yeah.
I get the feeling you guys could talk about horses. Sean, look, Sean
I'm
can
trying.
talk
You know
about
what? And
ants.
I've developed some of those.
Hello.
You know what? I tell you though, I have a I like I get along with people, especially the small people. I remember one of the I was at Santa Anita for about a month, and there was a Jamaican guy there, and I can't remember his name now. But here am I, pseudo big shot in my office, and he's bringing curry goat and rice for me. One afternoon for lunch.
Uh,
No one there's ever had that before. It's just I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the racetrack and I enjoy the racing people. They're
Yeah.
love that,
no
man.
matter
I
who
love
they
that.
are, we all have one thing in common. We all love the horses. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true, man. That's
Well,
true.
I want to wish you all the best going forward. I certainly I was very excited when Sean told me about your story, a little bit of the story and your journey and where you started from. So I was quite interested in hearing from you. And now that I've heard from you, I'm even more excited for you moving forward and seeing you do some bigger things. Um, have you ever been to the
maybe
Kentucky
where I
Derby?
am now, I don't want to.
You been to the Kentucky Derby?
That's the one race I haven't been to. It's because
Wow.
I've always it was the startup of the Woodbine meet, so I couldn't really leave. It's just I've been invited to go. I've tried to get there. I've never been able. I was there. I've seen the Belmont a few times, but the Derby never,
Okay.
never.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
coming on the show.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Steve, man.
please
I appreciate it.
don't be a stranger. When Sean holler at you, holler back. Next.
I
But my
always answer
goal,
the phone when Sean calls.
yeah, but my
And
goal is to
Sean,
get
even
him.
if you got to bring some cool and flying fish for this man, you make sure you get that, okay?
One day I will come down and see you. It's not a far trip to
No, it's not
Barbados,
for a ride, man. I mean,
yeah,
it's great, Steve.
but it's
You know
good.
what?
Thank you,
You know what's
guys.
really nice right now, Steve? The tourists are loving coming to the beach and watching horses swim on mornings. I mean, it's something I I can't believe how it's caught on. Every single day you see. I mean, well, on Thursdays and Sundays, a lot more, but it's something so different to them, and everybody's loving it. I mean, so it's something new.
My father used to
Interesting.
talk about doing that in Jamaica, training the horses on the beach. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
you swim horses on mornings. That way I do it. I go to the beach every morning. I got some horses that got problems. I just swim them. I mean, as you know, Fort Harry has the pool up there. Where you want to go in a dingy pool, or
yeah.
crystal clear
Salt water.
Have you learned to swim yet?
Carbon sea.
Eh?
No, I haven't. How do you remember that?
Because you're the only person I know that surfs and can't swim. It just... oh,
You see the stories we talked about now, Derek.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's now out. I'm still. This morning I got a little too deep, and I was like, I started to hyperventilate.
I gotta say, Sean, you're one of the nicest people I've ever met, and smartest horse guy. Like the stuff that you do and you think about, not many people do that.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
Even venture to do it, and venture to think like you do.
Thanks, buddy.
You're an asset.
Thanks, brother.
He's you know what, and that's why that's why we talk a lot now, because I realize that he's definitely on top, and he definitely is always thinking of the next. So always keep that. That's from me to you, brother. Always keep that.
I'm a dreamer. That's all I do. I'm a dreamer, but I never dream beyond what I don't think I could do.
But you see things that other people miss, and you grasp things easily.
All right, guys. Well,
all right.
Thank you for being on, Sean. We will.
I hope I didn't kill your show and your venture here.
No, sir.
Yes, we're definitely trying to do something here, because me and Sean, we came together, and Sean had his dream, and we got together, and we started talking about it, and we had a lot of conversation about this. So we're just trying to see if we can change some stuff and get some more information and do some things here. That's all.
What we're getting here is hearing a guy like Steve talking that nobody gonna really hear him talk before. I mean, this is something that so much good things have come out of this. I mean, it's a little long, but people will be going through this for weeks.
We've been in this thing for 2 hours, so.
Picking out everything you said. So thank you so much for that, man. This is
no problem, guys. Thank you.
And we really appreciate you today, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I'll see you soon.
All right, brother. Cool. All right.